Welcome to the channel. Today we will embark on a fascinating journey through the life of one of the least known but extremely talented American artists of the 19th century, Henry Bacon. Are you ready to find out how an ordinary boy from an industrial town became a world-class artist? Then let's get started. Henry Bacon was born in Haverhill, Massachusetts, in 1839. This town, one of the oldest in the United States, was already becoming an industrial center at that time, the true heart of the shoe industry. Imagine the noise of factories, the Merrimack River, stone sidewalks. All of this shaped the worldview of the future artist. But instead of a factory, the front awaited him. In 1861, when Bacon was only 21, he voluntarily joined the 13th Massachusetts Infantry, an infantry regiment of the North during the American Civil War. However, he was not just a soldier. He became a military artist, creating illustrations for the then popular Frank Leslie's weekly magazine. Imagine, instead of a camera, a brush and a notebook. It was the Instagram of the time, only in black and white, and with the smell of gunpowder. Interestingly, some of his field drawings were published during the war, so Americans saw it through the eyes of the artist himself. Unfortunately, his creative mission almost cost him his life. During the Second Battle of Bull Run, he was seriously wounded and forced to leave the service in 1862. This turning point literally brought him back to art. What do you think he did after his serious injury? Did he rest? No. Henry Bacon decided to go to Paris. And in 1864, he and his first wife, Elizabeth Lord, moved to France. At first, they settled in Brittany, but the real challenge awaited them further on. Henry Bacon enrolled in the legendary École de Beaux-Arts in Paris, the leading art institution in Europe at the time. One of his teachers was Alexandre Cabanel himself, a star of French academic painting. Bacon became one of the first Americans to be accepted into this school. Did you know about these veteran artists? Write in the comments. Next, we will talk about how the small Breton village of Pont-Aven became the epicenter of a great artistic revolution and what role Henry Bacon played in it. Subscribe so you don't miss our next videos and discover more forgotten stars of the art world. Imagine stone houses, mountain streams, cows, silence, and the smell of the sea breeze. This is not a scene from a movie. This is Pont-Aven, a small village in Brittany, in northwestern France. It was here that Henry Bacon found his second home, and perhaps even the true beginning of his artistic soul. After several years in Paris, Bacon was looking for something different. Not pretentious salons, not historical battles, but life, simple, real, with real people. And then one day, he arrived in Pont-Aven and simply fell in love with the place. At first sight, the village was almost cut off from the world. But that's what made it so charming. The locals, fishermen, women in traditional Breton costumes. For an artist, it was a gold mine of inspiration. And you know what's interesting? He wasn't just an artist who settled in a quiet village. He became a beacon for others. It was Henry Bacon who told his artist friends about this place. And gradually, others began to come here. For example, Robert Wiley, another American. He liked it so much that he stayed there forever. He is even buried in Pont-Aven. And then Paul Gauguin appeared. Yes, the very same Gauguin. And something more than just a community began. An entire artistic movement began, the so-called Pont-Aven School. There was no internet. There were no galleries nearby. But there were evenings with wine, conversations about art until late at night, heart-rending landscapes, and a canvas waiting every morning. It was paradise for an artist. And Bacon was among the first. One of those who laid the foundation for a new creative era. Despite his modesty, it was Bacon who became the guide for Americans into the European art world, and without him, this school might not have existed at all. This is how an ordinary American becomes a bridge between continents. He opens up the world of the village of Pont-Aven, and the world discovers a new style of art. But with the passage of time, everything changes. And even conservative artists like Henry Bacon are not left behind. Because what is an artist without change, right? After decades of classical painting, Parisian salons, and genre scenes with French peasants, Bacon suddenly disappeared from the art scene. But not because he had broken down. It was because he was looking for something new. And he found it in the sands of Egypt. It was 1897, the year that changed everything. It was in 1897, on the threshold of his 60th birthday, that Bacon set off for Egypt. Not on a cruise, not just to see the pyramids. He went to work,
To live.
to feel the color, smell, and light of the desert. Interesting fact, Bacon believed that only watercolor could convey the transparent light of the East. It was after 1897 that he almost completely abandoned oil and switched to watercolor. The Spirit of the Sphinx, Egyptian Pyramids, Obelisk Karnak. These titles speak for themselves. They don't just depict architecture, they breathe the same desert air that Bacon breathed. Imagine an artist who previously painted portraits in Breton costumes and suddenly immerses himself in Eastern mysticism. And this was not a blind copying of the fashionable Orientalist trend. His paintings truly convey admiration, intimacy, and respect for the culture. He didn't play with the East. He listened to it. It was more than just travel, it was a way of life. And Egypt wasn't a one-time visit. Bacon returned there every winter, from 1897 until his death in 1912. Yes, he died in Cairo, and it seems
Right.
like the end of the life of a man who is not afraid to go beyond the familiar, even after 60. Incidentally, his favorite subjects, evening light, the Karnak Temple, the Sphinx, are still exhibited in museums around the world, including the Smithsonian American Art Museum. At that time, the art world was changing rapidly, Impressionists were already in vogue, and academicism was almost forgotten. But Bacon simply followed his own path. Without fuss, without revolution, but with faith in light, paint, and the eyes with which you look at the world. What do you think? Is it too late to change your life at 60? Are you ready right now to step out of your comfort zone and go somewhere you've never been before? Write in the comments. We have already seen Henry Bacon as a soldier, a traveler, and an artist. But you know what? He was also a writer. A man who not only saw the world, but also explained it to others. Through books, through texts, through translations. In 1882, his book, A Parisian Year, was published. It was a kind of art version of a diary. Bacon described Parisian life, art salons, people, and the mood of the streets, with irony, warmth, and understanding. Incidentally, he created the illustrations himself. From 1890 to 1898, Bacon translated all the main annual catalogues of the Salon de Paris, the main art event in France at the time, from French.
It was a titanic task.
He didn't just translate words, he conveyed emotions, criticism, style, and the spirit of art to the American public. Without him, many Americans would never have known what was happening in Paris at the time. In 1901, Bacon and his second wife, writer Louisa Lee Bacon, published the book Our Houseboat on the Nile. It featured her texts and his watercolors. This journey down the Nile became a real window into the Eastern world for Western readers. Art was a way of life for him. He breathed it,
He talked about it.
and he shared it without pretension. Like a good friend, that's what he was like, Henry Bacon. Modest but profound. Not loud but influential. The stories of such people are not found in every textbook, but they are the ones who shape the world. If you have watched until this moment, I am sincerely grateful to you. You have just lived the entire life of an artist with us, from the dust of battles to the silence of the sands of Egypt. And if you found this story interesting, please like it, leave a comment, and be sure to subscribe to the channel. This will greatly help us develop and share such profound and heartwarming stories with you. Which artist would you like to hear about next? Write in the comments, and together we will discover even more forgotten names. See you in the next video.